You don't need a crisis to focus on your relationship. But here's the thing that nobody tells you. When things are calm and you're not being intentional about it, your mind will build a crisis for you. It'll hand you a problem to explain a bad feeling that you just can't name. And most of the time, it will point that problem right at your partner. We all know that feeling, that quiet, aching sense that something's wrong, but you just can't put your finger on what it is. Somebody will ask you, hey, how are you two doing? And you grasp for something, but all that comes out is, oh, we're fine. And then you sit back, you look, and there's just no reason for you to be unhappy. But here you are, unhappy anyway. I know that feeling. I've lived that feeling. And this video is about why it happens and what to actually do about it. There's almost a safety in an ongoing crisis, an emotional safety. A crisis you can point at and go, this right here is fucked up. It gives you permission to feel hurt. An obvious problem justifies the attention. It justifies your emotion. But nothing's wrong? What the hell do you do with that? I'm fine. We're good. Those don't come with the same built-in urgency. So you just sit on it. And because you can't name the problem, you can't find the solution. And that bad feeling, well, it just sits and festers. Now here's where it got real confusing for me, because I had done the work, the heavy work, the self-work. I tackled a lot of my frustration, my anger, those root problems that were very much me problems. The stuff that had been Esme's biggest complaints for years. And I had this expectation, now that these things are fixed, everything's gonna be different. The world's gonna be different. My marriage is gonna be so much better. Boy, was I wrong. That certainly was not the case. In fact, I felt more alone. I felt more isolated, more unseen, more unheard than I did back when I was being an asshole. So I'm gonna push back on the advice that everybody gives. Become the best version of yourself and the relationship will follow. It's not wrong, but it's not the whole truth. Fixing yourself matters. Absolutely, it does. But it's not the same thing as connecting. And I've got a moment that, for me, made that undeniable. A few years back, I was on the phone with my father. He had asked how the family was, how everybody was doing. And I went on and on and on. For people who know me, I talk a lot. And I talked about the kids, what they were into at school, the new things that they were interested in, how I was watching their little personalities take shape. I talked about those kids for, God, it must have been an hour. And then it came time to talk about Esme, the love of my life, the person I chose to build something beautiful with. And I had nothing, not good, not bad, nothing. So I did what we always do. I defaulted to her work. Oh, she just got a promotion. She's doing great, just finished her degree. All the things that she did. But that's not what he asked me. He was asking about us. And the truth is, I didn't have an answer because I wasn't sure about us. I didn't feel connected to her and I couldn't tell you why. And here's the ugly part. There was nothing actually wrong. So I invented something. I decided that Esme was resenting me for growing. I told myself that she was too tied to the old version of me to ever appreciate the man I had become. I kept a scoreboard in my head. I've done all this changing. What the fuck have you done? There were nights I laid in bed awake, telling myself I'd be better off without her. And looking back now, virtually none of that was real. A few pieces of it were. You know, she did feel left behind in some ways. And in some ways she was right. I did leave her behind. I was so buried in my own growth that I left her standing there. But the resentment, the scoreboard, the better off without her, that was all me. Because here's what I was really doing. I wasn't angry at Esme. I was ashamed of me. Ashamed of all those years I had wasted being a shit man, a worse husband, and an even worse father. And being angry at her was just easier than sitting in any of that. So my brain handed me a problem, and it pointed it right at Esme. And that right there is the whole thing. Because the disconnection between us, that was real. But instead of seeing it for what it was, my mind handed me a villain. That's what calm does when you're not paying attention. It doesn't feel like peace. It gets quietly rewritten into a fake fight. The crisis is a disguise, and underneath it is almost always your own stuff, not your partner's. So what do you actually do when on paper everything is fine? You go back to the basics. You focus in on your connection with your partner. You strengthen your presence in the home. You date your spouse. You answer those small bids, those little reaches for your attention, instead of missing them, instead of ignoring them. And this isn't just me talking. The research on this is pretty wild. Couples who stay together turn towards those little bids about 86% of the time, whereas couples who end up divorced, only 33% of the time. Those small moments, they predict the whole outcome of your relationship. And they found it's those failures, that connection, the little missed moments in the calm, that become the big fights later. You don't have to be perfect, which is the nice thing, because nobody's perfect. You just have to catch most of them and circle back on those occasions that you do miss. And let me show you exactly what this looked like for me and Esme. Everything between us was just logistics. Who's taking the kids to music lessons? Who's got the dentist appointment? How are we covering the mortgage this month? And look, that stuff matters. I'm not saying that it doesn't. But it was the least important thing that we could have been spending our one-on-one time on. Because here's what I should have been asking her. I should have been asking how it felt to finish that degree she had been working so hard for. Whether her 20-year-old self would be proud of the woman that she had become. What she was hoping for out of her 50-year-old self. I wasn't curious about her, not really. And if I'm honest, she wasn't doing it either. We both just sat back and accepted fine. We accepted survival. And I know that this actually works, that what I'm saying is true, because it's what saves you in the moment when you screw up. Literally this week, I was deep in some real focused work on practicing presence. And I have ADHD, so switching tasks in the middle of something, yeah, that one sucks. And Esme comes to me with two things at once. One, she's going to Spokane tonight. Two, she needs to rent a car without a reservation. Both of these, complete news to me. And there's 90 minutes before the rental place closes. And she does this. She drops the problem in my lap and expects me to solve it. My first move was the wrong one. I shut her down immediately. I closed the door on her. I told her, look, I'm in the middle of something. I don't have time to solve your problems right now. Bitter, frustrated, overwhelmed. But then I did catch it, because that story I just told you, she dropped her problem in my lap. That's certainly one way to see it, and it makes sense from my seat. But there's also another way, because she wasn't dumping a problem on me. She was tired, overwhelmed, and she was asking her person, me, for help. And I hope you hear the difference there, because it's everything. And then, praise be to God, he gave me a second chance. She called me back, said she wasn't even sure how she was going to get 2 cars home, and I saw it for what it was, a gift, a chance to make it right. So I put away my grumpiness, I put away my irritation about the interruption, and I went and I did the right thing. Of course, what should have been a 20-minute favor turned into 2.5 hours, and I ended up working late that night, but I showed up. And the only reason I caught myself at all is because I had been quietly doing that daily work, the work of becoming the kind of man that I actually want to be. So when I blew it, the awareness was already running in the background to correct me, because we're gonna get it wrong. That's fine. What matters is that we don't close the door on the bid. So here it is one more time. You don't need a crisis to focus on your relationship. Those calm stretches when nothing's wrong, those are the best times to be intentional. Date them. Show them a little extra affection. Get curious about them again. Do that and your relationship gets stronger. Period. And when the real crisis comes, and they will, you'll have a strong partner right beside you. Instead of a stranger, you slowly stop seeing. So before you go, be honest with me for a second. When your relationship is in those calm moments, when nothing is actually wrong, do you get intentional or do you tend to coast? One word, coast or intentional. I'll go first. I coasted for years, and it damn near cost me everything. Drop yours in the comments. I'll talk to you all soon. Cheers.